So, do you want me looking at the camera? When I came up with the idea of using Coroplast to make storm shutters, I realized I didn't want to cut them by hand. I wanted to create software that allows me to lay them out virtually and to take that software to generate code to drive a Shopbot. So this is the software I came up with. So my goals in the software was to create a system and shutter designs, plan the panel use with virtual cutting that we've discussed, and generate output for the CNC table, and finally to be able to save to a file. So we have here the finished system, but if I were to start from scratch, I would give a design example, and when we do that, we have a blank Coroplast over here, and there's actually no shutters here. This is just a dummy shutter. So you have to create a shutter. So you hit new to create the shutter, and let's call it shutter. And let's give it 54 inches wide by 37 inches high. A bunch of my windows were that size. So now that shutter is what's up here now. And I like to do the first layer. So we got to go to the first layer, and here and I like to rotate like this, so I can drag this guy over here. And part of the beauty of the software is it snaps to corners. So this corner is what I'm moving the panel with, and when I come over here to the corner of the shutter, it snaps to it. So now we've snapped on the shutter. The panel they're both perfectly lined up, and now I can do a cut. And what happens when you do the cut is you have the panel over here with the piece cut out of it is an additional panel. So now I can go to the next layer. I can rotate this guy because I want to be going in the other direction. So I rotate him around, and I grab him and take him over here. And now I'm putting on the next layer Coroplast that's going in the other direction. So we cut out of that. Now we've used two parts of this, and actually I'm going to fill this other layer in from this same panel. I bring it over here, snap, cut. Yeah, so you can see here that I've used more of this panel for these, but now when I go to the next layer, I need to be going in the other direction, and this panel has not got enough to do what I need to do here. So once again, I pick a blank and I bring him over and cut him. And so now for this one shutter, I've used up all these panels. But if I've added another shutter, new shutter, so we have a new shutter, and I can go down to the next layer on that. Well, that's not the right shutter. Here we go. So this shutter hasn't been done yet. So, and I could take this shutter here, but as you can see, it's not big enough. So I'll grab the blank one, bring it over, cut it. Actually, this shutter's the same size as the other one, so I've kind of not giving a good example here, but I go to another layer, and I can pick either of these two guys to be my next layer. So I can take this one and cut him out. I can take this one. I want to do it this way because so in any case, you can see that you can work your way through the shutters, picking out pieces to cut out of the. So I'm virtually cutting up the panels, and in the end, I end up with the collection of panels over here. So what happens when you finish a shutter? The text shows up on it. So this text is labeling this panel right here, this section, this piece for a panel. And I can click on this and I can move it around, and I hit R to rotate it, and I can put it in a place where I want it to be when I put it in the Shopbot. This is going to get labeled right there with that thing. So each layer has got text on it like that. Let's go to a layer that has two pieces. Here we go. I reloaded the original example project, and now we have all these panels, and they all have labels on them. As you can see, here's the labels for the first shutter, and this has labels. As I step through the shutters, you can see they have different labels. So each one of these labels uniquely identifies that piece. For example, this is my kitchen window. This is the front section, actually the front of the house. The inner layer, and an arbitrary number that identifies this part that's unique. So here, well, this is also got the P16. In any case, this tells me it's the first, the 0, programmers, we use 0 as a start of the numbering, and 1. And if I go to the other layer, this is the front of that shutter. And then if we go, here's the back. Anyway, these unique labels get put on which leads us to the next discussion. So after I have all these panels set up like this, I can go to the CNC function, and now I have a panel as it was laid out to be cut out. Now these are pieces from various shutters. They're not necessarily all the same shutter because of the way I've laid everything out. They could be different shutters, but they have their labels on them. And I can click on this SBP, which is Shopbot code, ends in a .sbp. So this is telling me that I can generate the Shopbot code. So this is the draw layer, and I generate the Shopbot code, and it already exists. So we save it. Okay. So this is drawing mode up here in the right-hand corner. The cutting mode doesn't have text on it. The text was put, so the way the Shopbot runs, and actually we can see this by going to simulate. So if we do a simulation, this is the drawing mode, and what it's going to do is it takes the pen and it marks everywhere it's going to cut, and it draws the text so that you know where your panel is going to go. So this is the step that lets you, first of all, it's a planning step in that the edges of the panel are going to be clamped to the Shopbot, and you don't want to have the knife running into the clamp. So the pen comes out to those points, and they don't go into the clamping area, but they indicate by running to the edge here and stopping that there's going to be a cut there that goes further to the edge. So this allows you to put the pen in first and find all those places where you are going to have the knife go and you don't want clamps there. So you can rearrange, if you haven't put the clamps in the right place, rearrange them so that they're not going to get hit by the knife. And so here we go, we're drawing, so this is the back of the house, the first window, and it's the front of the panel. So you can see that, which is part of what is happening here, is I created a font that is line text. So that's, making these efficient by just creating the letters with lines. So I found a line font online and I downloaded it, and then it was a TrueType font, and I used a tool that allows me to extract the vectors out of it, and then I took those vectors and coded them into the software.
What tool did you use to get the vectors
out? FontForge. So FontForge will let you break down a font into its parts, and I just went through FontForge and picked out the vectors.
For the entire alphabet? For
the entire alphabet, yes.
And then what did you do once you had the vectors? Where did you put those in?
So for each letter, there's a set of vectors to allow you to write it. So I created a map of each letter and then the vectors that go with it. So when the program sees the text, it picks a letter and generates the instructions to write that letter.
You have the vectors from FontForge, right? Okay. And you export them, or you make a file that goes to another piece of software? How does that happen?
No, I generated a table that goes in that is indexed by letter.
Can you show us an example of that table?
Yes. I found this line font online, and I was looking for something that I could generate characters with lines not filled in spaces, areas. So I found a line font. I took FontForge and extracted the vectors out of it, and then I generated JavaScript code, which is what you're looking at right here, and what this is the D attribute on SVG. So it's a path that defines each character, and this table has indexed. It's a map. I turn it into a map with 0, 1, 2, and that generates the instructions that I use to feed the Shopbot each character. So the Shopbot is able to draw me the text that I use to identify each panel by following these SVG instructions on drawing each letter. This part of the code here is the draw part. I have cut and I have draw. Letters are drawn, and when I'm drawing the lines on the Coroplast with the Shopbot, I use a pen, and the pen follows these instructions. The Shopbot does to write these characters out that are just, it does them in lines instead of having to draw shape. It takes half as long and is more efficient to do it as lines. Because the text is the object that gets the most transformations. Everybody else. So let's bring this screen back up. First of all, let me run this. So we just saw the drawing mode, but now this is the cutting mode, and you can see that the cut actually went almost to the edge. And the other part that this simulation is doing is there are 3 levels the knife can be at. The moving level, which is the purple line, and the turning level like that is where the foot is on the thing, but the knife is clear of the surface. So that allows the knife to be rotated around without catching on the Coroplast. So like when we come back down here, you see that it put the foot down and then it rotated around. And you can also see in the simulation here how the knife goes into the Coroplast at an angle. It doesn't drop completely down. It's moving forward as it cuts. So we'll see it right here. You see it move forward and drop into the Coroplast. So that, and I've actually cut panels up. It works great. In fact, we have a video of that. So that's the software that I wrote to generate the panels to be cut on the Shopbot. The Shopbot's a router. I need to turn it into a cutter of Coroplast. So in the next episodes, I'll show you how I design and fabricate the tool, the knife that makes the Shopbot a Coroplast cutter.